She never imagined that a Tuesday morning at the grocery store would become the catalyst for the most shocking confrontation of her life, until a perfectly manicured hand shoved past her in line and a voice dripping with entitlement changed everything forever. This is the story of how one act of cruelty led to the most satisfying dose of instant karma you'll ever witness. Emma Rodriguez had always been the type of person who flew under the radar. At 28, she worked as a night shift cleaner at Pacific General Hospital, earning just enough to cover rent on her tiny studio apartment and send a little money home to help her aging mother with medical bills. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Her days followed the same quiet routine: sleep until afternoon, grab groceries at the small market near her apartment, then head to work where she spent 8 hours mopping floors and sanitizing rooms while the rest of the world slept. She wasn't bitter about her circumstances, though others might have been. Emma found dignity in her work, knowing that her efforts helped keep patients safe and comfortable. The doctors and nurses rarely acknowledged her presence, but she didn't mind. She had learned long ago that being invisible had its advantages. People said things around her they wouldn't say otherwise, and she had developed a keen understanding of human nature simply by observing. Emma's appearance reflected her practical approach to life. She kept her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wore thrift store clothes that were clean but clearly second-hand, and carried a worn canvas bag that had seen better days. She had learned to stretch every dollar, clipping coupons and shopping sales with the precision of someone who understood that every penny mattered. That particular Tuesday started like any other. Emma had woken up at 2 in the afternoon, made herself a simple lunch of rice and beans and headed to Miller's Market for her weekly grocery run. The small neighborhood store wasn't fancy, but the prices were reasonable and the owner, Mr. Chen, was kind to his regular customers. Emma had been shopping there for 3 years, ever since she moved to the area, and had developed a routine that maximized her budget. She moved through the narrow aisles methodically, checking items off her handwritten list and calculating totals in her head. Generic cereal, day-old bread from the discount rack, whatever vegetables were on sale. Her cart contained the essentials: enough food for the week, laundry detergent, and a small bag of her mother's favorite tea that she would mail later that day. The store was busier than usual for a Tuesday afternoon. Emma noticed several people she didn't recognize, probably from the upscale neighborhoods nearby, who had discovered that Miller's had surprisingly good produce at competitive prices. She didn't mind the crowd. She had learned patience through years of working around demanding people and difficult situations. When she finished shopping, Emma joined the line at the single checkout counter. There were 4 people ahead of her, which meant maybe a 10-minute wait. She used the time to double-check her list and organize her reusable bag. Mr. Chen caught her eye and smiled, as he always did. Emma smiled back, appreciating the small moment of human connection in her otherwise solitary day. That's when she heard the voice behind her, sharp, impatient, and clearly annoyed. "This is taking forever. Don't these people have anything better to do than stand around all day?" Emma glanced back to see a woman about her own age, but that's where any similarity ended. The woman was tall and blonde, wearing what appeared to be designer workout clothes that probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent. Her hair was perfectly styled despite supposedly coming from the gym, and her manicured nails drummed impatiently against an expensive-looking purse. The woman was speaking loudly enough for everyone in line to hear, apparently not caring that her complaints were directed at the very people surrounding her. Emma turned back around, deciding to ignore the rudeness. She had dealt with entitled people before, usually wealthy patients' family members at the hospital who treated the cleaning staff like furniture. But the woman wasn't finished. Emma could hear her making phone calls, speaking in the kind of voice that demanded attention. "Jessica, you would not believe the place I'm stuck in right now. It's like something out of a documentary about poor people. The line is moving at glacial speed, and everyone looks like they've never seen money before." Emma felt her cheeks burn. She kept her eyes forward, focusing on the elderly man ahead of her who was carefully counting out change for his modest purchase. Behind her, the woman's voice grew louder and more obnoxious. "I swear some people have nothing better to do than make shopping an all-day event. Look at this woman in front of me with her little coupon collection and her sad little cart. It's honestly pathetic." Emma's hands tightened on her cart handle. She had dealt with cruel people before, but something about the casual cruelty in the woman's voice hit differently. Maybe it was because Emma had been feeling particularly worn down lately, working extra shifts to help with her mother's medication costs. Maybe it was because she was tired of being invisible, of being dismissed and looked down upon simply because she didn't have money. The line moved forward. Emma was now second in line, watching as Mr. Chen patiently helped an elderly customer who was struggling with her coin purse. The woman behind her was apparently done with waiting. "Excuse me," the woman said loudly, stepping around Emma's cart. "I'm in a major hurry. I just need to grab a few things and go. You don't mind, do you?" Without waiting for an answer, she pushed past Emma and positioned herself ahead in line. Emma stood there, shocked by the brazenness of it. The woman acted as if cutting in line was perfectly normal, as if her time was simply more valuable than everyone else's. "Actually, I do mind," Emma said quietly. "I was here first." The woman turned around with an expression of pure disbelief, as if Emma had just spoken in a foreign language. Up close, Emma could see that she was probably around 26 or 27, with the kind of artificial perfection that came from expensive procedures and unlimited beauty budgets. "Seriously," the woman said, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're going to make a scene over this? Look, honey, I have places to be. Important places. You obviously have nothing but time on your hands, so what's the big deal if I go first?" Emma felt the eyes of everyone in the store on them now. Mr. Chen looked uncomfortable, clearly wanting to intervene but not sure how. The other customers were watching with a mixture of sympathy and second-hand embarrassment. "It's not about time," Emma said, her voice still quiet but firm. "It's about basic respect. There's a line for a reason." The woman laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Respect? From who? Look at yourself. Look at your clothes, your bag, your pathetic little shopping cart. You think you deserve the same treatment as people who actually contribute something to society." The words hit Emma like physical blows. She had always been proud of her work ethic, of taking care of herself and helping her family despite limited resources, but standing there in her worn clothes with her carefully budgeted groceries, she suddenly felt every insecurity she had ever carried about her circumstances. "I work hard for what I have," Emma managed to say. "That should count for something." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "Work hard." The woman's voice rose to a level that ensured everyone in the store could hear. "Honey, real work doesn't involve mopping floors and emptying trash cans. Real work requires education, skill, connections, things you clearly know nothing about." Somehow this stranger had identified exactly what she did for work and was using it as ammunition. The casual cruelty was breathtaking. "Some of us," the woman continued, "actually make something of ourselves. We don't spend our lives scraping by, clipping coupons and shopping for day-old bread. We create value. We matter. And when we're in a hurry, people like you should have the common sense to get out of the way." The store had gone completely silent. Emma felt tears threatening to form in her eyes, not from sadness but from pure humiliation and anger. She had never been spoken to so publicly and viciously by a complete stranger. Mr. Chen finally found his voice. "Ma'am, please. There's no need for this kind of talk in my store." The woman turned on him too. "Oh please, don't pretend this is about your store. This is about teaching people to know their place. Some of us have real lives to get back to." She turned back to Emma with a smile that was anything but friendly. "So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep holding up the line with your wounded pride, or are you going to let me pay for my few items so I can get back to the real world?" Emma stood there feeling smaller than she had ever felt in her life. Part of her wanted to fight back, to defend herself and demand the respect she deserved. But another part of her, the part that had learned to survive by staying invisible, told her to just let it go, to avoid making things worse. The woman seemed to interpret Emma's silence as surrender. "That's what I thought," she said, turning back to face the cashier. "Some people just need to be reminded of reality." Emma stepped back, letting the woman take her place in line. She watched as the blonde woman purchased expensive organic items and paid with a black credit card that she waved around like a trophy. When Mr. Chen gave her the receipt, she didn't even say thank you. As the woman headed toward the door, she paused next to Emma one more time. "Here's some free advice," she said, her voice loud enough for the remaining customers to hear. "If you don't want to be treated like you don't matter, try actually becoming someone who matters. Until then, stay out of the way of people who do." And then she was gone, leaving Emma standing there with her modest groceries and her shattered dignity. The other customers looked at her with a mixture of pity and embarrassment, which somehow made everything worse. Emma quickly paid for her items, buried Chen's concerned eyes, and hurried out of the store. She made it halfway home before the tears finally came. Not just tears of humiliation, but tears of frustration at her own inability to defend herself, at the unfairness of being judged solely on her appearance and circumstances, at the casual cruelty of someone who clearly had never struggled for anything in her life. That evening at work, Emma moved through her cleaning routine mechanically, replaying the encounter over and over in her mind. She thought of all the things she should have said, all the ways she could have stood up for herself. But deep down, she knew that nothing she could have said would have mattered to someone like that woman. People who viewed others as beneath them rarely changed their minds when confronted with evidence to the contrary. Emma had always believed that hard work and dignity would be enough, that treating others with respect would earn respect in return. But today had shown her that in some people's eyes, she would never be more than an obstacle to be pushed aside, a reminder of what they considered themselves superior to. As she sanitized the hospital rooms that night, Emma found herself wondering if the cruel woman had been right about one thing. Maybe she really didn't matter in the larger scheme of things. Maybe her work, her struggles, her quiet acts of kindness and responsibility really were invisible to the world that counted. It was going to take something extraordinary to prove otherwise. 3 weeks passed before Emma encountered the woman again. The humiliation had settled into a dull ache that accompanied her daily routine, a constant reminder of her place in the world's hierarchy. She had started shopping at different times, hoping to avoid another confrontation, but life had a way of bringing people back together when they least expected it. Emma was leaving the hospital after her shift on a Thursday morning when she saw the familiar blonde hair and designer workout clothes. The woman was standing outside the main entrance, apparently waiting for someone. Emma's first instinct was to use the side exit, but something made her stop and watch. The woman was on her phone, speaking in the same loud, entitled voice Emma remembered so clearly. "Daddy, I told you I'd meet you here at 7. Where are you? I have a massage appointment at 9, and I can't be late." Emma ducked behind a pillar, not wanting to be seen but unable to look away. The woman's foot tapped impatiently against the concrete, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against her designer bag. "No, I don't want to reschedule. This is important to me. You promised we could tour the new wing today, and I've been looking forward to seeing where my donation is going." Donation, the word hit Emma like a revelation. This woman was apparently wealthy enough to make donations to the hospital where Emma worked. It explained the arrogance, the casual cruelty, the assumption that everyone else should step aside for her convenience. A black sedan pulled up to the curb, and Emma watched as an older man emerged from the back seat. He was tall and distinguished, wearing an expensive suit that spoke of serious wealth and power. Even from a distance, Emma could see the family resemblance in the strong jawline and commanding presence. Finally the woman said, not bothering to lower her voice, "I've been standing here forever. Don't you know how embarrassing it is to wait around like some common person?" The man approached his daughter with a slight frown. "Victoria, you're 15 minutes early. I told you 7:15, Victoria." Finally Emma had a name to go with the face that had haunted her thoughts for weeks. "Whatever, Daddy, can we just get this over with? I want to see the children's wing where they're putting up my plaque, take some photos for social media, and then get out of here. Hospitals give me the creeps." Emma felt a surge of anger. Victoria was treating her charitable donation like a photo opportunity, a chance to boost her social media presence rather than a genuine desire to help sick children. The older man looked around the hospital entrance, with genuine interest and respect. "Victoria, this is serious business. The Children's Cancer Ward serves hundreds of families every year. Your contribution will make a real difference in their lives." I know, it's amazing, it's wonderful, whatever. Can we just go inside and get the tour over with?" Emma watched as they disappeared through the main doors, her mind racing. Victoria was wealthy enough to donate to hospital wings and have plaques made in her honor. Her father was clearly someone of significant importance, given his demeanor and the deference shown by the hospital staff Emma could see gathering in the lobby. For the next hour, Emma found herself unable to leave. She told herself she was just tired after her shift, but the truth was more complicated. She needed to understand who had humiliated her so casually, needed to put the encounter into context. She made her way to the break room where the cleaning staff gathered between shifts. Rosa, the day shift supervisor, was just arriving for work. "Emma, you're still here. Your shift ended an hour ago." "I know, Rosa, have you heard anything about a big donation to the children's wing? Someone named Victoria?" Rosa's face lit up. "Oh yes, the Harrison family donation. $50 million for the new pediatric cancer treatment center. Mr. Harrison is some kind of tech billionaire and his daughter insisted on making the announcement herself. They're doing the whole ceremony next week. Harrison, Emma felt the blood drain from her face. She had heard that name before, seen it in the news. Richard Harrison, founder and CEO of Harrison Industries, one of the wealthiest men in the country, which meant Victoria Harrison was not just rich but incredibly, extraordinarily wealthy. The daughter seems nice enough, Rosa continued. A little high maintenance maybe, but when you're donating that kind of money, I guess you can be however you want to be. Nice enough, Emma almost laughed. If only Rosa knew how Victoria Harrison treated people she considered beneath her. Emma spent the rest of the week in a strange state of anticipation. Part of her wanted to forget the whole thing, to accept that people like Victoria Harrison lived in a completely different world where normal rules didn't apply, but another part of her burned with the injustice of it all. Victoria got to be celebrated as a philanthropist and humanitarian while treating working people like obstacles in her path. She got praised for her generosity while displaying breathtaking cruelty to strangers. The contradiction felt like a physical weight on Emma's chest. The donation ceremony was scheduled for the following Tuesday at 10 in the morning. Emma wasn't supposed to be at work during the day, but she found herself calling in sick to her evening shift and arriving at the hospital early. She told herself she just wanted to see how these things worked, to understand the world that Victoria inhabited. The main lobby had been transformed for the occasion. There were flowers, photographers and several local news cameras. Hospital administrators in their best suits mingled with what appeared to be other wealthy donors and community leaders. Emma recognized the mayor and several city council members from newspaper photos. She positioned herself near the volunteer information desk where she could observe without being noticed. The cleaning staff uniform she wore made her effectively invisible to the important people gathering for the ceremony. At exactly 10 o'clock, Richard Harrison arrived with his daughter. Up close, Emma could see where Victoria got her commanding presence. Richard Harrison moved through the crowd with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. Victoria looked stunning in a designer dress that probably cost more than Emma made in 6 months. Her hair was professionally styled, her makeup flawless, and she wore the kind of jewelry that required security guards. She smiled and posed for photos with the hospital board members, playing the role of gracious benefactor with practiced ease. Dr. Martinez, the hospital's chief administrator, stepped up to a small podium that had been set up for the occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to celebrate an extraordinary act of generosity that will transform the lives of countless children and families. Emma watched as Victoria stepped forward, her smile bright and camera-ready. This was the same woman who had publicly humiliated her just a few weeks ago, and now she was being praised as a humanitarian. The Harrison family's $50 million donation will fund a complete renovation of our pediatric cancer ward, including state-of-the-art treatment facilities, family support spaces, and advanced medical equipment that will give our youngest patients the best possible chance for recovery. The crowd applauded, and Victoria nodded graciously. When Dr. Martinez handed her the microphone, she stepped forward with the confidence of someone who had never doubted her right to be heard. "Thank you so much for this opportunity," Victoria began, her voice warm and seemingly sincere. "Children are our most precious resource, and every child deserves access to the best medical care available, regardless of their family's circumstances." Emma felt sick. Victoria was speaking about treating people equally regardless of circumstances while having demonstrated exactly the opposite behavior just weeks earlier. "My father taught me that with privilege comes responsibility," Victoria continued. "Those of us who have been blessed with resources have a duty to lift up those who are struggling, to show compassion to those who are less fortunate." The hypocrisy was staggering. Emma watched as Victoria spoke about compassion and responsibility while remembering the cruel words she had used to describe people who shopped for day-old bread and clipped coupons. "I believe that every person has dignity and worth regardless of their job or economic status. A parent working 3 jobs to pay for their child's treatment is no less valuable than someone born into wealth. In fact, their sacrifices make them heroes in my eyes." Emma's hands clenched into fists. Victoria was speaking the exact opposite of everything she had demonstrated during their encounter. Either she was completely unaware of her own behavior, or she was deliberately lying to make herself look good. The speech continued for several more minutes, with Victoria hitting all the right notes about compassion, equality, and social responsibility. The audience hung on every word, clearly impressed by her apparent wisdom and generosity. When she finished, the applause was enthusiastic. Several people wiped tears from their eyes, moved by her words about dignity and Emma felt like screaming, but the ceremony wasn't over. Dr. Martinez stepped back up to the podium with a special announcement. In addition to this generous donation, Ms. Harrison has requested that we establish a special recognition program for our hospital support staff. She believes that every person who contributes to patient care deserves to be honored, from our doctors and nurses to our maintenance and cleaning crews. Emma's blood ran cold. Victoria was now going to be honored for recognizing the value of people like Emma, the same people she had dismissed as worthless just weeks earlier. Ms. Harrison specifically wanted to acknowledge that a hospital can only function when every team member is valued and respected. She's asked that we create quarterly awards to recognize outstanding service from all departments, including those whose work often goes unnoticed. The crowd applauded again, and Victoria smiled humbly, as if the idea of recognizing working people was a profound insight rather than basic human decency. That's when Emma noticed Richard Harrison's expression. Unlike everyone else in the room, he wasn't smiling. He was watching his daughter with an odd look on his face, as if he was seeing something that troubled him. After the ceremony concluded, the crowd began to disperse. Emma started to leave, feeling more frustrated and angry than when she had arrived. The injustice of watching Victoria be praised for values she clearly didn't hold was almost unbearable, but as she headed toward the exit, she heard familiar voices coming from a small conference room near the administrative offices. The door was slightly ajar, and Emma could hear Victoria speaking to someone, her voice carrying the same entitled tone Emma remembered from the grocery store. Honestly, Daddy, I don't know why we had to make such a big deal about the support staff thing. It's not like anyone really cares about the janitors and cleaning people. I just thought it would look good in the press release. Emma froze, her heart pounding. Victoria was revealing her true feelings, the same callous attitude she had displayed weeks earlier. Richard Harrison's voice was quiet but firm. Victoria, I hope you understand that every person who works in this hospital contributes to saving lives. The person who cleans the operating room is just as important as the surgeon who operates in it. Oh please, Daddy, don't be so dramatic. Of course they serve a purpose, but let's be realistic about the hierarchy here. Some people are born to lead, and others are born to follow. Some people create value, and others just maintain what more important people build. Emma's breath caught in her throat. These were almost the exact words Victoria had used to humiliate her at the grocery store. I raised you better than this, Victoria. You raised me to understand reality, Daddy, and the reality is that we matter more than they do. Our time is more valuable, our opinions carry more weight, our contributions are more significant. That's just how the world works. Is it? Tell me, Victoria, when was the last time you actually interacted with someone from a different economic background? When did you last have a real conversation with someone who works in service or maintenance? There was a pause and Emma could practically hear Victoria's dismissive shrug. Why would I? What would we possibly have to talk about? Their problems aren't my problems, their lives aren't relevant to mine. I'm polite when I have to be, but I don't see the point in pretending we're equals when we're clearly not. Just last month you told me about some unpleasant encounter you had at a grocery store, something about a woman who was holding up the line. Emma's heart stopped. Victoria had told her father about their encounter. Oh, that. Some pathetic cleaning lady who thought she deserved the same treatment as paying customers. I had to set her straight about how the world really works. Honestly, Daddy, some people need to be reminded of their place. Their place. Yes, their place. Look, I don't want to be cruel, but somebody has to maintain standards. If we let every minimum wage worker think they're as important as people who actually contribute to society, where does it end? Someone has to preserve the natural order. Emma heard footsteps, and Richard Harrison's voice became clearer as he apparently moved closer to the door. Victoria, I want you to understand something very clearly. The money that paid for your education, your clothes, your lifestyle, came from my work. But my work was only possible because of thousands of people who believed in what we were building. Programmers, yes, but also security guards who kept our offices safe, cleaning crews who maintained our facilities, cafeteria workers who fed our employees. That's different, Daddy. Those people work for us, they're part of our system. No, Victoria, they work with us, and the woman you encountered at that grocery store, she wasn't trying to inconvenience you. She was simply existing in the same world you live in, trying to get through her day with the same dignity you expect for yourself. But she was holding up the line, and she was being stubborn about it. I was in a hurry. You were in a hurry to go where? To do what? get a manicure, meet friends for lunch. Tell me, Victoria, what was so important that it justified treating another human being like garbage? The silence that followed was deafening. Emma pressed herself closer to the door, hardly daring to breathe. I want you to think about something, Richard Harrison continued. That woman you dismissed so casually. She might have been rushing home to take care of a sick family member. She might have been working multiple jobs to pay for her mother's medical treatment. She might have been dealing with challenges that would break someone who's never faced real hardship. Daddy, you're being dramatic again. Am I? Victoria, I built my company from nothing. My first office was cleaned by a woman named Maria who worked 3 jobs to support her 4 children. When I couldn't afford to pay rent some months, she vouched for me with the building owner. When I was working 18-hour days and forgetting to eat, she made sure there was food in the break room refrigerator. Emma heard footsteps again, and Richard's voice became more intense. That woman taught me more about dignity and strength than any business school ever could. And you know what happened to her? Her youngest son became a doctor, her daughter became a teacher, her oldest boy started his own construction company. They succeeded not because someone gave them handouts, but because they worked harder than most people thought possible. That's a nice story, Daddy, but it doesn't change the facts about social hierarchy. The facts. Here's a fact for you, Victoria. The woman you humiliated at that grocery store, she works right here, in this hospital. She's one of the people your donation is supposed to help support. Emma gasped audibly, then immediately covered her mouth with her hand. Had Richard Harrison somehow figured out who she was? What are you talking about? I had my security team look into your little grocery store incident. The store has cameras, Victoria. I know exactly what you said to that woman, and I know exactly how you treated her. Her name is Emma Rodriguez, and she's worked at this hospital for 3 years. She has perfect attendance, glowing reviews from her supervisors, and according to the nursing staff, she goes out of her way to comfort frightened children and worried families. Emma felt tears spring to her eyes. Someone had been watching. Someone had cared enough to find out who she was. So what, Daddy? I still don't see why that changes anything. It changes everything, Victoria. Because while you were up there giving a speech about dignity and worth, the woman you publicly humiliated was in this building, probably listening to every word. The same woman you said didn't matter, doesn't contribute, doesn't deserve basic respect. Emma heard Victoria's sharp intake of breath, followed by a long silence. How did you? Why would you investigate something like that? Because, Victoria, I've been getting reports about your behavior for months. This wasn't an isolated incident. You've been treating service workers, retail employees, and anyone you perceive as beneath you with increasing cruelty, and I've decided it needs to stop. Daddy, you're overreacting. Everyone treats those people that way. No, Victoria, everyone does not treat people that way. Decent human beings treat others with respect regardless of their job or income level, and if you can't learn to do that naturally, then you're going to learn it the hard way. Emma heard the sound of papers rustling. What's that? This is your trust fund documentation, Victoria. As of today it's suspended. What? Daddy, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Your credit cards, your allowance, your apartment rent, your car payments, all of it stops today. This is insane. You can't cut me off because of some random encounter with a cleaning lady. I'm not cutting you off because of Emma Rodriguez, Victoria. I'm cutting you off because of who you've become, and you're going to stay cut off until you prove to me that you understand the value of every human being, regardless of their circumstances. How am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to pay for anything? The same way Emma Rodriguez lives, the same way Maria lived when she was cleaning my first office. You're going to get a job. Emma heard the sound of a chair scraping against the floor. A job? Daddy, I don't know how to do anything like that. Then you'll learn. And Victoria, your first job is going to be right here at this hospital. You're going to work alongside the same people you've been dismissing as worthless. You're going to see what their days are really like. You can't make me do this. Actually, I can. The trust fund remains suspended until you complete 6 months of honest work in a service position. 6 months of learning what it means to depend on your own labor for survival. 6 months of being treated the way you've been treating others. And if I refuse, then you'll discover what it's like to live without the safety net you've taken for granted your entire life. The choice is yours, Victoria. Emma heard footsteps heading toward the door and quickly moved away, her heart racing. She managed to duck into a nearby bathroom just as the conference room door opened fully. Through the crack in the bathroom door, she watched as Richard Harrison emerged first, his face set in determined lines. Victoria followed a moment later, her perfect composure finally cracked. For the first time since Emma had encountered her, Victoria looked uncertain, even frightened. As they walked past Emma's hiding place, she heard Victoria make one last desperate appeal. "Daddy, please, I'll apologize to the cleaning lady, I'll make a public statement, whatever you want. But don't make me do this." Richard Harrison stopped and looked at his daughter with an expression that was both stern and sad. "Victoria, this isn't about apologies or public statements, this is about who you are as a human being, and right now, I don't like who you've become. The woman you humiliated that day has more character in her little finger than you've shown in the past year." He paused and his voice became gentler but no less firm. "I love you, Victoria, but I won't enable you to become someone who treats other people's pain as entertainment, who sees kindness as weakness, who believes that money makes you inherently better than anyone else. You're going to learn what real worth looks like, and you're going to learn it the hard way." As they disappeared down the hallway, Emma remained hidden in the bathroom, overwhelmed by what she had just witnessed. Justice had arrived in a form she never could have imagined, delivered by the very person who had created the monster she had encountered. For the first time in weeks, Emma smiled. Victoria Harrison was about to discover what it felt like to be on the other side of the service counter, and Emma had a feeling it was going to be a very educational experience. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up, just click and check them out.